Hi. Okay, I'm gonna make sure that I'm posting this in the group, in the class. Anybody? Okay. Yay. I don't see if anybody's here or not, but I know that a lot of you, oh yay. Okay, cool. I am just gonna wait a second. This is so fun. I hope y'all can see me. Do I look like sideways? Y'all should see my setup. It is hilarious. Trying to be where I can be hands-free here. And hope this thing doesn't tump over on me. Hey friends. This is so fun. I'm so glad that y'all are here. Okay. So I'm just gonna get going. I know a lot of people are gonna be able to come in. Okay, awesome. Thanks, Megan. I'm like, my air conditioner just came on, so it feels really loud in here, but maybe it's just me. Hey friends. Okay, so I love interacting live, but I know I'm gonna get super distracted. So if you ask questions or make comments that I don't respond to, it's because I can get like super rabbit trail and like get really distracted. So if I do not answer your question or your comment, I will definitely come back later. So I'm just comfy, just took my shoes off. I'm sitting Indian style here at the Haven. I had to get away from just the distractions and the noise in my house. Hi, Summer. This is so fun. So when I felt like the Lord tell me to do this, I was like, all right. And then for the past week, I'm like, what do you want me to talk about exactly? So this is definitely a step in obedience for me to just share. And I keep telling friends I've seen today, I'm like, I've been super prayerful and expectant about this, but honestly, like, I have notes, but I really have no idea what's gonna come out of my mouth. So the plan is I'm gonna share, and I'm trying not to be super long-winded, and then I have some like informational posts about specific things I'm gonna share about that will just be practical tools for you. And then I have another friend of mine who basically created the bones of the rest of the class. That her name is Katie, and she's going to come in here live and sort of talk to you through like how do you actually put into use, into practice the things that I'm going to tell you about. So it should be really fun, and you can come back and look at all the posts and watch this video or share it with a friend later. So a little disclaimer, I am not a doctor. I'm not going to treat or diagnose you. I'm just going to share my personal story with you in hopes that it will encourage some of you, that it will challenge you to look at some of the things going on in your life and to seek out maybe different answers or something that you maybe haven't thought of before, and just sort of get your mind turning. So I know for me, when I sort of jumped into this whole world. So I'm a researcher by nature. I love to research. I love to know things. I am not super sciencey. So I feel like I should tell you that right off the bat, because some of you are. And you might be like, well, exactly how does that work? I'm like, it works. I don't know. Just do your research. Google it. No, but I'm not super sciencey. So I'm just going to say that from the start here. But basically, when I got into learning about all of this, I had a huge need in my life. I was feeling, so I'm a feeler. I have big emotions. I always have been. I don't know if y'all are into any of the personality tests, but I am on Myers-Briggs. I'm a big F. I'm a feeler. On the Enneagram, I'm a 7, which is the enthusiast. And everything's exciting. I'm an extrovert, so I get totally built up and filled up by people. But as I get older, I'm like, I need a little bit of time to myself to regroup. But I have a lot of feelings. I have a lot of emotions. And my husband and I started trying to start a family 8 years ago, and it was not working. You know, you feel like I'm ready to start a family. It was actually not even on our timeline. It was totally a desire given to me by the Lord. I remember being at lunch with Summer, my friend who's on here, and saying like, okay, it's time, like, I totally have the green light, like, we're going to trying to start a family. And for about a year, nothing was happening. And it was the most devastating, heartbreaking, confusing year probably of my whole life. Everybody around me was having babies and getting pregnant, no problem, and I didn't understand why it wasn't happening for me. So I'm not gonna go into like tremendous detail about my infertility story because I didn't want this to be just for women struggling with infertility. But if that is you and you want to hear more, if something I say is like, oh, I want to hear more about that, I have an email I could send you that's sort of like, I typed it up, it's like 3 pages long, but it's my entire story and everything we did and all the doctor's appointments and all the different kind of people we went to. So if you're interested in that, just leave your email and I can email it to you after this class is over. So I'm going to talk about it a little bit, but I'm not going to go like in super in depth. But all that to say, I feel like that's when my hormones and my emotions and everything were just sort of like all over the place. So after a few years of trying unsuccessfully to get pregnant, I remember being like, okay, what else can we do? Let's like look into something else here. And I grew up around, I'm around medicine, around just normal things, chemicals, just stuff, just normal stuff, not like super organic or healthy or oils or anything, like just sort of this normal way that probably a lot of you grew up. So all of this in this world was like pretty foreign to me. So as I've just learned that there is a different way, and I am not against doctors. I'm not against modern medicine. We had our miracle baby, spoiler alert, via IVF this past year. And so, but there was a time and a season where we were in between going to fertility doctors, and I did a lot of holistic stuff, and I was trying to figure out how I could really help my body best get ready to carry a pregnancy. So I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let me backtrack a little bit. So I remember my good friend from college, she was actually my big sister in our sorority, her name is Casey Wiegand. She called me. She just felt like the Lord put me on her heart, and she called me one Sunday and said, hey, I really was thinking about you a lot at church this morning. I have something I want to send you, and I want you to listen to it. She knew that we were struggling with infertility, and that it had been a lot of years, and there's a lot of emotions that build up with that, with anything, with any big life change, with any transition, with anything that's going on in your world that is unexpected, right? I was actually looking up the definition of anxiety and panic today. Hold on, I bookmarked it because I was like, this is so... It says anxiety, well, not the definition, the dictionary definition, but in my reference guide, it says anxiety is the body's way of preparing itself to deal with a threat or to deal with future stressful events. So, yes, panic is a sudden, overwhelming feeling of fear and anxiety that tends to dominate a person's thoughts. So, anyway, these things can happen no matter what you are walking through. It might not be infertility. It might be something totally different. So hear me say, this is not just for people in that situation. This is just part of my story and how it sort of got me on this path. So she sends me this. It's like a webinar, and it was based on a book called Taming the Dragon Within, and it was talking about how to sort of balance your hormones and your emotions through using essential oils and supplements and all these things that were like not on my radar, nothing I knew anything about. And I listened to it, and I also am like a very all or nothing person, which I know a lot of people aren't, and that's totally great, like baby steps, but I'm super all or nothing. So I was like, okay, you get to a point with anything where you're like, I'm just desperate. I will try whatever you tell me. There is no harm in trying anything. Bring it on. So I immediately ordered my starter kit through Young Living to get all my oils, and I ordered a few extra other things that I will talk about and post about because they're things oils that I still use every single day. And I just sort of fell in love with using essential oils and natural things to help me and my emotions and all of the big things that I was feeling. And I started talking about it, and I started sharing with friends. And so I will show you sort of my little routine that I do every morning. So if you're like, I don't even know, I don't use essential oils, I don't even know what you're talking about, go back and read the first 2 posts in this class, and if you have more questions, we can definitely talk about it. But when people are like, essential oils are so weird, they're so trendy, it's like, do you know what the disciples brought Jesus when he was born? Frankincense and myrrh. Like, essential oils are the root of the plant. They have been around forever and ever and ever, and they're not weird. Maybe they're trendy now, but they have been around forever. So anyway, these are my best friends that I'll talk about or post about. White Angelica, Joy, Valor. I have a lot. And Stress Away. But these are my little friends that I use every single day. And if you read that the second post, or maybe it was the first one, talking about our smell and how things, like smells do something to our brain. Like if you think about, okay, so like I volunteered for a junior high ministry when we were in Midland, and we made fresh chocolate chip cookies every week because they wanted the junior high students to come in and smell the fresh baked cookies and walk in, and it was like this home, like cozy, comfy feeling. And so now when I think about chocolate chip cookies, I think about community Bible study, and I think about those junior high students that we met with every week. And so if you think about it from that perspective. So I'm going to tell you a few stories, and I totally know that some of the stuff might sound like super wackadoo and like, what are you talking about? And that is totally fine. I probably felt the same way back in the day, but it's really not. And the reason that I wanted to do this and share this with you at the risk of you thinking that I'm weird and crazy was because if it can help any one of you like it has helped me, it is absolutely worth it. And I feel like that is just sort of my anthem, even just for vulnerably sharing through our infertility or some with special needs or different things, is no matter how uncomfortable it is for me, how many butterflies I get before I post something or share something, if it is going to help somebody else, then it is absolutely worth it. So, and I guess when I started thinking about this and started like making notes about all these things, because everything is connected, right? Like our emotions and our physical stuff, it's all connected. I was actually having breakfast with a new friend this morning who's watching this video right now. And she just went to this naturopath, and we were talking all about it. And I'm like, tell me all the things. And she was like, I know this sounds like really weird. Like I'm sort of weirded out, but I don't know, it works. I'm like, no, I don't think it's weird. Like, bring it on. Like, if you have a need and there's something you are desperate enough, you're going to try things, and your natural things. And even you might think like, how is this even working? I don't really even know how this works, but somehow it does. And so you just go with it. So that's how I am. Like my little friends, like, so I put on every morning, I put on Valor. So Valor is for like confidence and balance and strength. And it smells so good. I put it on right before I talk to y'all. I put it on every morning on my wrist, and I put it on and I put my wrists together, and I literally will like sit in my bathroom just like take a few deep breaths before I go on with my day. Joy. A lot of these names are like joy. It's gonna do what it says, right? So I put joy, over my heart every single day. And I sort of breathe it in. I put these little rollers on here because I wear so many. White Angelica is one of my best friends. So as a people person and an extrovert, I tend to, and empathy is like my number one strength on StrengthsFinders. So I tend to take on a lot of people's stuff, and it's really easy to sort of get this like negative energy from being around people all the time. And so I know it sounds really weird, but White Angelica is supposed to help sort of protect you from that negative energy. So I put it on my shoulders every morning, or I'll put a little bit on my hand, not with the roller, but on my other bottle, and I'll just sort of smell it and like brush my body with it. I'm telling y'all, if for some reason I'm home, like maybe on a Saturday, and I'm in my pajamas literally all day and I haven't brushed my teeth or anything, and I forget to use my oils, like halfway through the day when I'm being like crazy, I'm like, what is the matter with me? I'm like, I did not put my oils on this morning. Like that is the kind of impact that it has had on my life. And what I just tell people all the time is you have to be super consistent with it. It's not like modern medicine where when you're feeling sick, then you take a bunch of medicine. It's really more of a preventative. And it's something that you do every single, there's supplements I do every day. There's other things I do every day, but those are like my best friends. And what I have learned as far as like sort of more natural things go is a lot of times medicine just sort of wants to like mask the problem, where essential oils and other natural things will really get into the root of the problem and heal you from that way and not just mask it. So a good example of this is like candles. Like, I don't know if you've ever done any research on candles and what happens when you burn candles, and there's no judgment on the candles. I was a candle burner and perfume wearer for my whole life, and it was really hard at first to get rid of my candles and to get rid of my perfume. But once you really start doing research, like I always say, you got to know better to do better. And so once you start doing your research, and I've done a few posts about this on my like oils Instagram about all the toxins and all the stuff that's in the air when we're burning candles. But when you diffuse, you can see I actually have my diffuser here. When you diffuse essential oils, it smells amazing. So I'm diffusing Harmony right now, which is another one of my favorite sort of emotional oils. Oh my gosh, so good. And I'm getting the benefits of this oil, which Harmony, what do you think it does? Harmony. And it smells amazing. And you know, Young Living just came out with this beautiful new diffuser that has like a little thing that sort of looks like candle glow, because I know that's what we all love, is like the glow of the candle. And that's what's so hard, is all these things are so comfortable. Like, we are comfortable burning candles because that's what we've done our whole lives. We are comfortable wearing perfume. We are comfortable using these certain products that we've used our whole lives. And it's really hard to be like, okay, I'm gonna try something new. I'm gonna learn. I mean, it's almost like when my husband and I started going to Africa, and we had never been. My two kids are from Ethiopia, if you don't know all of our story, but our oldest kid's Camp in Asher. And so the first time we went to Africa on a mission trip, our minds were like totally blown, and our hearts were completely broken. And we always say that we are gloriously ruined, because our lives were like ruined from that point on. Like, nothing was the same after that trip, because we had seen. And once you've seen things, you can't unsee them. Once you know things, you can't unknow them. My friend Carly today was like enlightening me about the artificial dye that's in our food that we give our kids that can affect their behavior. And I'm like, my mind today is like blown, researching and Googling and watching her amazing video about it. And now I know better. And so now I have to do something. I can't just pretend that I don't know it anymore. And so I'm sorry if I'm bursting any of your bubbles here, but it's from a place of love, because I care about you, and there really are things that we can help. So when I'm sort of going all over the place, so I hope y'all are following me. But one thing that I did when we were really starting to work on with a natural guy to work on like balancing my hormones and going through all my stuff, what was going on. So I don't know if any of y'all have heard of a Zyto scanner. So it basically like can detect your biomarkers. Thank you. Like your frequencies in your body, and sort of tell you what's on or off. Well, anyway, this guy that I go to locally here in Bryan, he's on the scientific board for Young Living. He's like built his own program. It's like an hour and a half, like really intense sort of thing that he does. So as we started going through these scans, I did it for about 6 or 7 months with him. We realized that my body had all of these chemicals and toxins that it was working on detoxing. So it would come up with things like, it could tell on there about like the pesticides that I have been exposed to. So if you don't know this, your skin is our biggest organ. So we are so concerned about the food that we eat, and eating organic and eating natural and eating all these things, which is awesome. And I need to do a lot of work in this area. So I by no means have this all figured out or have it all together, and I'm like doing all the right things. I'm learning. But we also have to pay attention about what we're putting on our body, what we're stepping on. So even maybe me walking, I love to be barefoot. So maybe even me walking barefoot on my yard my whole life growing up with pesticides on it could have like been the thing that, one of the things that made my body have all these chemicals and toxins in it. So we started detoxing. So I'm going to take a little left turn here. Before we got to Bryan, I started doing reflexology. And if any of you have done reflexology, you'll agree with me that it's like the most amazing thing. Like, I think it's maybe sort of better than a massage. Like, my reflexologist in Midland would like knock me out. She was so good. So we have these sort of VitaFlex points on our feet and on our hands and our ears and different places that the point connects to a different organ or different part of our body. So the whole time in reflexology, they're working on your feet. And so I remember going to her, and she would say, when I could tell that your liver needs to be cleansed. And I'm like, I don't know why my liver needs to be cleansed. I don't drink a lot. Like, you think of liver stuff and you think of alcohol. And I'm like, I don't know why my liver would need to be cleansed. And she's like, well, anger is stored in your liver. So crazy that, and then you learn about what oils can help. Like lemon is a very detoxing oil. Purification. I used to hate the smell of purification, like hate it. And a lot of times when people get a new oil and they're like, it's too much for me, it's too strong, it makes me nauseous, it gives me a headache, I don't like it. I'm like, well, typically the things that we don't like the smell of are maybe the things that our body really needs. And our body is like processing and detoxing things as we're getting used to it, which is crazy. I know this might sound like, what is this girl talking about? But I really believe this, and I've seen it to be true in my life. And so, but then it's just crazy how it's all connected. Like our heart and our body and our physical, like everything is all connected. And so I'm like, what am I angry about? Like what is storing in my body that I'm angry about? Which is causing me to look inside my heart. And so another thing that I have learned through this whole thing is the power of our thoughts and of our words. And at first, when people would talk to me about this, I'd be like, that's sort of weird. Like, but also, I grew up, my dad is an entrepreneur, and he like Mr. Positivity, Mr. like all the Zig Ziglar and all the books, and we have all these quotes from my dad. And I love that I grew up with all this positivity. And so I've known this my whole life. But sometimes when you get to be an adult and you take it on your own, and it's like, okay, I totally see this in a different way now. It's not just like coming from my parents, but like I'm learning it for myself. And so it might sound like sort of like not spiritual, but it totally is, because the Bible really talks about how we have to guard our hearts and our minds, and we can so easily let negativity and like get into our hearts and get into our minds, and it can really affect us. Like today, all day, I was nervous, but I kept telling myself like, this is going to be awesome tonight. Like people are going to be encouraged. This is going to be great. Like I'm like literally talking to myself in my head. So when I went to Peter, the guy in Bryan who did the scan thing, we would have these programs that I would do that it would tell me like sort of what my body needed and what was going on. And a lot of the times it were affirmations. And so things that I would say over and over, like a certain amount of times. And at first I thought it was sort of weird, but then I loved it because that truth was like getting into my mind. I'm going to try to look up and share on a post like what some of those were. And I have some posts to share after this video that talk about all my favorite little oils and a declaration or an affirmation that you can say as you're using that oil. And that's what Katie's going to share with us about like what that looks like. But I remember telling him, Peter, I remember in 8th grade very vividly, I don't even know why or what we were talking about in 8th grade, like in class at school, saying, I am terrified of childbirth. And so as we were going on and as we were working through some of my stuff, he was like, Wynn, if you have been telling yourself that since 1998, you need to stop telling yourself that. And I was like, okay. And he's like, no, like think about like what that could have done, not just like in my mind, but like physically in my body as I'm like telling myself these things that are negative. And so that just sort of really opened my eyes. My husband and I have all these like affirmations that we try to say every day. And one of them, I'm like still trying to memorize it, but it's like, my life is important. My story matters. I was born to make an impact. Like all these things that might sound and feel like super cheesy to be like, okay, am I really going to like say these things out loud? But I really do believe that we have so much power in our words and our thoughts. And as I was thinking about all of this and how all of these things are connected, I'm like, it's because why I want you to know this is because I want you to know deep down that you are worth it, that you are worthy of healing, that you are worthy of freedom, that you are worthy of taking care of yourself. I think as women, and especially as moms or people who work full time or whatever your situation is, it's super easy to be taking care of everybody else and everything else and putting yourself to the side. And typically for me, a pattern in my life is that happens, and then about once a year, I get some sort of sickness, and I'm like, I really think it's the Lord's way of being like, slow down, sister, like you need to stop and you need to rest. So I was starting to feel it yesterday. I'm like, this summer has just been a little bit different with the newborn and other factors that make it a little bit different than a normal summer. I'm like, I need to like be by myself and be inspired or dream. Like, so I went to this little downtown place by myself last night and sat outside on the patio and had a glass of wine and ate a pizza by myself. And it was so good. Like, I feel so filled up today, and more alive because I took the time to invest in me. And so that was not really on script, but I just want you to know that you are worthy of that. Something that I love to just preach and get on my soapbox to women is that you are worthy of connection and belonging and being known. And so be vulnerable, like be the person who goes first. If you don't have somebody to share your struggles with, or you don't have somebody to really sit down and talk with or pray with, pray for that person. And then be the person to go first and ask the other person. I feel like so many times we assume things about others. Oh, well, she already has enough friends, or she's so busy, or she doesn't need me. And like my dad always says, assume makes an ass out of you and me assume. So don't make assumptions. Okay, that was a little bit off topic, but one more story that I want to tell y'all. I'm just looking at my notes here. So I told you about the reflexology thing and the anger and the liver, and I told you about Peter and all of the affirmations and the things that we worked on. So something else that I found to be super helpful, and sorry, I have not been able to read through y'all's comments because it would get me a little distracted. But so, and this is not a story that I've told that many people, but so I had Rivers in February, and so right after Christmas, we were home from the holidays, so maybe it was early January, and you know, the holiday, I don't know if any of you have ever been pregnant during the holidays, but it's just sort of a different season. But it was a great distraction from being pregnant. So we tried to get pregnant for 7 years, and it was a long journey. Oh, I just thought of something I want to tell y'all. Okay, I'll come back to that. It was a long journey. It was something that was much awaited for and anticipated. And everyone was so excited, and I should be so happy because I finally get what I want, which, by the way, should is not a great word. Like my husband says, like, we're teaching our 5-year-olds not to say the word can't because it's very negative. Like, I can't do that, I can't do that. Like, no, like I can do it. Like, literally cheesy things, like when we're like, oh gosh, this is going to be such a long night or whatever, we'll be like, why is this night going to be amazing? Like, we totally cheese out the conscious language. But oh my gosh, what was I just got off track. Okay. I was telling you a story about, I don't know what I was talking about, the negative thing, but anyway. So, holidays are crazy. And I was finally, should. I was talking about the word should. So, when you, like, I heard Shauna Niequist say one time, like, don't should yourself. When you're like, oh, I should call this person. I should do this thing. I should, whatever. Don't should yourself. So, everything should be great. Everything should be great. Everything's awesome. Just so happy. But you still can go through hard times, even when things are beautiful. And we all know, living in such a world with social media and all the things, that it's really easy to see everybody's life through those little squares and think that they have it all together and that they're perfect and everything's great for them, which is a lie. I mean, everybody has hard things that they're going through, whether they share about them or want to admit them or not. And obviously, there are hard things that we go through that aren't applicable to share in a public way, but we all struggle. So I was up really late. I couldn't sleep. I dealt with a little bit of pregnancy insomnia, which is and I was up and I was like, okay, Like, it's almost baby time. What do I need to do? And I got on Pinterest, which is not what you should do if you're up late thinking about what you should be doing. My house was a disaster. There was like Christmas stuff everywhere still, and presents, and just all the things. And I was like up, I don't even know, super late, just like looking at pictures and reading posts about like what you should pack for the hospital, and all these things that I hadn't done, and all these things that I hadn't gotten, and all these things I hadn't thought about. And it was like, oh my gosh, I have to do all these things and I don't have that much time to do it. And I just sort of lost it. Like, I have never struggled with, I've never been on any sort of medication for like anxiety or depression or anything. A lot of people close to me have, and I'm not against that in any stretch of the matter. I just never have. So I've never experienced what maybe a panic attack or an anxiety attack would feel like, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened. And the next day, in talking to friends who struggle with this, they were like, yes, that's how I feel every time this happens. And so it was at home. My husband sometimes gets up like really early and goes to his office to get stuff done before anybody. And so he was like up and gone to go to his office at 4 a.m. So I think I, at like 3:30, woke up and started like sort of freaking out and having all these thoughts. And he was gone. And I remember being like, I can't go to sleep. I can't go back to sleep. And he was like, try to watch TV, turn the TV off, pray, whatever, all the things, like just could not go to sleep. And I started just feeling like really anxious and really panicky. And I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm at home. It's 4 a.m. My children are asleep in the other room. I can't like go to the doctor, call a doctor. What am I supposed to do in this moment? And I got out my reference guide, a smaller one, but sort of my like little oily Bible, as I call it. And I got it out and I started doing research. I'm like, okay, what oils do I have for this situation? And two of the things that I landed on, I don't even know why, just the Lord, were lavender, which, come on, even if you aren't oily, you probably have used lavender. Before I had my starter kit, I had lavender. And ylang ylang, which I should just smell it right now because, oh my gosh, it's amazing. So I ended up putting these, per the request, was I put them in my diffuser, and then I took a warm bath and I put Epsom salts and several drops of each of these, and I literally sat in the bath. And I had just started going to counseling, which, a plug for counseling. Counseling is amazing. I feel like counseling has had a stigma of like, oh, you only go to counseling if like something's really wrong or whatever. But like, healthy people, we all need counseling. I really believe it. I was going to this awesome, I'm not going to get into it, but this type of counseling called EMDR. Look it up. It's really, really cool, really powerful. But my counselor had just taught me all these tactics for breathing. And so like when you're going through EMDR counseling, you sort of go back to these like traumatic or different kind of memories. And it's basically like retraining your brain to think of the memories differently. So it's really intense. So she had just taught me all these tactics for breathing through these things. And so I literally was in my bath with my oils, with my diffuser, practicing my breathing, praying out loud for like an hour, and it passed after that. And I'm not saying, I don't medically struggle with anxiety, so I'm not a doctor, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying it was a wake-up call for me that I was so thankful that at 4 o'clock in the morning at my house, I had tools available to me to help me cope in those moments with these big feelings and these big emotions and all these things that I was going through at the time. So that's really what I wanted to share. Oh, low battery. I have some posts that I'm going to share with you, and then I was like, I don't know how much I'm going to talk about infertility or hormone balancing because it's sort of a different thing. Oh, the other thing I thought of that I wanted to share. So on the road to like learning about all the chemicals and toxins and detoxing them from my body, I sort of went all or nothing with making our home chemical free. So if you do not have the app Think Dirty, download it on your phone. You can scan like the barcode for different products, like in your bathroom or your cleaning products, your just like beauty products, whatever, and see how clean or dirty they are. And it's very alarming. I will say, again, all or nothing. So I'm like in the bathroom 2 springs ago chunking things, and my husband and I are like, everything we know is a lie. Like, what is happening in our country? Like, why are these things not banned, and why am I putting these toxins and these chemicals on my face and on my body? And so that is another huge part of my story with Young Living, and just all of the a million cleaning products and bath products and makeup products and all the things that I've been on the hunt the past 2+ years and trying to find. So my family and my home is as clean as it possibly can be. So that is something that I'm super passionate about. It's sweet. I feel like the Lord has just sort of taken me through all of these different journeys to learn about things, like when we went to Africa, and then I started working with Noonday Collection, who works with artisan partners who hand make beautiful jewelry and accessories and get paid a fair living wage. I became super passionate about where I purchased my clothes and my jewelry and my accessories, and like no longer could I go to Forever 21 and buy a $2 pair of earrings anymore. Like, I knew better, and so I had to do better. And so this is just sort of another part of our family's journey, and I just wanted to share it with you from my heart, from a place of love, of like, if you are interested, if this is something that you want to pursue, I would love to help hold your hand and walk you through it and be your guide and just share all the things that I've learned. I am a very passionate person. If you know me, you already know that. And if I find something I like, I'm just going to tell you about it because I think you need to know. So, oh yes, so the hormone imbalance. Okay, so I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about it or not, but I'm going to do a little slide right now after this about hormone imbalance and several oil, like an oil called Progestins Plus, and then a men's oil called Shutran that is awesome and helpful for that. And then I'm going to link a video that my friend Liz did in the comments. It's sort of her quick, like 4-minute testimony about it, which you should watch if you are interested in learning more about like the hormonal balancing part. And then I'm going to share with you about several other of my favorite oils, like Release, which is amazing. So I love to put things on diffuser jewelry, like this little diffuser bracelet. It's just leather, and you can literally put oils on it. And then so all day long, when you're like looking at your watch, you're smelling the yummy oil. So I love Release. Sort of talk about what all these things do. Believe is another one that my dear friend, I tell the story, but Sarah gave me in a time where we were really struggling with infertility. I already told you about all these other ones. I already told you about all these other ones. Oh, and then Stress Away. So I love these rollers that Young Living makes because it makes it super easy and accessible to people to just, there you go. So I'm going to go back and read these comments when I get done while I'm posting the post, but thank you so much for being here. I'm going to be around posting the rest of my things and answering questions. If you want to chat more privately, please feel free to direct message me, or if you have my number, text me. This really is something I'm passionate about. So love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and stay tuned for Katie too. She will be on in a little bit and share practically some tips for using the declarations and the oils and scripture. So see you in a little bit.